Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for our marvelous cities here in South Florida that are doing amazing work for participating in today's event. I'm really excited that everyone has joined us today. This is our capstone event for Earth Month. And for those of you who don't know Debris-Free Oceans, we're a nonprofit dedicated to inspiring sustainability in Miami. And we conduct education, cleanup, sustainability consulting, and lifestyle awareness events in the South Florida area. So today we're going to be having this event featuring these South Florida cities who are taking initiative to enhance sustainability. They're making incredible strides towards eliminating single-use plastics in their communities and inspiring others to take action as well. And what's important to note is that these cities are doing this work despite the fact that Florida has legislation in place preempting cities from taking certain legislative action. So I think that it's really important that we know that despite these preemptions in place, that we can do so much at the city level. And we have to remember that our laws are just merely a reflection of society's moral values. And so when we actually start with inspiring our culture towards change and efficiency, we as consumers and businesses and governments supporting these sustainability initiatives, we can actually have laws and legislation that follows, that supports the moral structure that we've created through curating a culture of sustainability. And I believe that this is where real long-lasting change will come from. So again, today we're highlighting these cities. I hope that everyone can learn a lot from these different cities' initiatives and what we can look forward to and be inspired by. And I hope with that, I turn this over to the stars of the show. And thank you so much.
Awesome. So first we have Yanni from the city of Miami Beach. She is their senior sustainability coordinator who is going to speak about their plastic-free MB program and the various ordinances they have in place.
Thanks, Maddie. Hi, everyone. I'm Yanira Pineda, Senior Sustainability Coordinator with the City of Miami Beach. Everyone calls me Yanni. It's just easier to pronounce. Thank you for being here. I want to make sure that you're able to see my screen. Maddie, are we good?
Yes, we're all good.
Perfect. Well, let's start off by giving you guys a little bit of background on how Miami Beach is experiencing pollution. We collect about 82,000 pounds of litter from our waterways every year. So we do have a waterway contractor goes out there and picks up small litter, large litter. We see all kinds of things, couches, shopping carts, plastic debris, anything you can think of is picked up by our waterway contractors. We see about 8,000 pounds of litter on our beaches on a daily basis. And what that tells us, it's also part of the people who come to our beaches, but it's not just a local issue. With winds and currents, we have seen litter come from other municipalities, surrounding municipalities. So that's why it's important for all of us to work together. And that's why, of course, Debris-Free Oceans is hosting this special webinar on all the cities that are in our area. And then another thing to note is that it does impact our stormwater system. And so one of the things we noticed is within our water treatment system, which is actually in this next slide, we do see that most of the litter that is collected within these filtration systems that we have is plastic litter. So we see a lot of bottles, we see bottle caps. So it helps us understand where we should focus our efforts on. These are a couple of ordinances and resolutions that we've passed over the last few years. Of course, we have a citywide ban on styrofoam. So any type of styrofoam is banned from the beaches, actually citywide, let me correct that. And our ordinance was actually extended to include docks and buoys. And that's thanks to, I know that Dave is here, Dave Dobler, that's thanks to Dave Dobler and his help with getting us to understand how that was impacting our environment and also helping us with the legislation behind it. We do have a single-use plastic bag ordinance in place. However, because we are preempted by the state, it only applies to the sidewalk cafes and right-of-way areas. And we have a resolution that revised our beachfront concession agreement to require beachfront concessionaires to move to 100% reusable items, reusable wares. So that's something that we're still in the process of working with them. So we're slowly transitioning into that, but it's something that is forthcoming. And then we also have our citywide plastic straw and stir ban, which went into effect last year. But with COVID and everything, we're slowly working with businesses in order to be able to implement that ordinance in place. It was, as everyone knows, very hard on businesses, everything that happened within the pandemic. So we're trying to be conscious and work with them on solutions. So a big part of what we work on is when we do pass these ordinances, we do it in a phased approach. We typically give each ordinance about a year to go into effect to allow for enough education. Once the education phase is over, we go into written warning phases and then eventually enforcement. So education is a big component of it. The last thing we want is to create this added burden for businesses. We want to be able to work with them and encourage them to move to sustainable operations voluntarily. And so it's something that we've noticed has helped us and has worked in the past. So as I mentioned, there are, and as Katie mentioned, there are a lot of preemptions in some types of plastics. And so in order to address those preemptions, we actually created a business certification program. It's plastic free MB. This was created about 2 years ago. And it was created with actually a marketing agency from New York. And one of the things that we learned is the marketing agency did help us with establishing the look of the campaign. However, the best thing about it was that we realized that most of the footwork was something that we could just do internally. And so we took that knowledge and we realized that we could create a program that was could be replicated in other cities. So something that Marvin is going to cover in his presentation is how North Bay Village was able to transition plastic-free MB into their municipality. So it's something that is open to all municipalities. Any element of the program can be replicated, and we're more than happy to work with you on being able to implement it. So how does the program work? So the way it's designed is that it's a tiered system. So again, we wanted this to be as inclusive as possible, and also it's to serve as really more like an educational campaign. So the first level requires for plastic bags or plastic straws to be removed from a business. Level 2, it would be both the plastic straws, plastic bags, and one more item. And then level 3 would be 100% plastic free from the list of items that you see below. We know that not all establishments use these types of items. So we're flexible with that, and we work on a one-on-one basis with each business. So what do they get out of this? Out of this program? So they do get a welcome packet, plaques. We work with them actually on being able to get more exposure through all of our communications channels. Again, we noticed that with the pandemic, it was helping a lot of businesses that wouldn't get patrons as much as they would before by helping them post about what their efforts are. So it's a great way to highlight them. And we also have an independent contractor who was originally an intern from Molly Rickles, and she does an amazing job with serving as basically a sustainability consultant for these businesses. And it's something that we've noticed that a lot of them are looking for resources and education and want to know what the next steps are. So it's funny how this program kind of came together. Again, it was 2 years ago. Our mayor approached us, Mayor Dan Gelber, and he was like, I want a plastic-free MB program in place. You guys have a week to put it together. And we were just like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? We spent an entire week trying to collect as many businesses as possible to get on board. And by the end of the week, when commission rolled around, we were lucky enough to have been able to get 60 businesses on board. So it was a pretty big launch. Everyone was very excited. And the businesses are still a part of the program. This was not last year, it was in 2019. We worked with Debris Free Oceans on this one as well. This was our official launch of the program over at the One Hotel. It was also a great program. We had a panel, and we had a lot of, we had many distributors, like the Cisco's of the world. What else? We had all the different retail, I guess, companies that you can think of there to talk about the different alternatives that they had available for not just restaurants and hotels, but any other type of business. One of the things that we learned when we started the program, it was originally honestly designed for restaurants more than anything and maybe hotels, but we noticed that there were many businesses that were kind of out of the ordinary that wanted to join us. So you can see that the other is actually the majority of the businesses that we have here. And we have schools in there, we have nonprofits. We have even real estate offices that want to have sustainable operations within their own businesses, which we thought was amazing. So it really shows the amount of traction and how the reach that this program has had. These are just a couple of the members that we have. And last year we actually formed a great partnership, which we already have one, but we took it to another level with Debris-Free Oceans. They helped us with creating additional resources for the businesses that joined the program. They created a reusables calculator, which helps businesses understand the amount of cost savings that they are able to receive by transitioning over to reusables versus using single-use plastic items. They have a search engine for responsible products that serve as alternatives to those single-use plastics. They help us with getting vendor discounts for those businesses. And they, again, just like Molly, they help us with sustainability consulting. One of the things that we've been working on in the last, I would say, couple of months is we sent out a survey to all the existing businesses. There was a huge concern over how COVID-19 was going to impact sustainability and whether there was going to be an increase in plastic use throughout our municipality. We were actually shocked to believe that 76% of the businesses that answered the survey said they did not believe that reusables were unsafe despite the pandemic. And then 72% said that the pandemic did not impact their plastic reduction efforts. So that shows you that despite everything, the health concerns, businesses that are committed to sustainability and to reducing plastics tend to stick to it. So it's great information to have. So another thing that that the survey included is what these businesses wants were. They want more help in finding alternatives. They were also asking for additional frequent communication. So we're going to actually continue molding the program to include a newsletter, and then Debris-Free Ocean helped us with creating a Facebook group for our businesses so that they can each interact with each other. And they want additional exposure. So one of the things that Debris-Free Oceans is also helping us with is Plastic-Free MB Mondays, where we take a business every Monday and we highlight them and their efforts. Coming soon is our partnership with Big Blue and You and Ocean Conservancy and Debris-Free Oceans. So what this is basically going to be is we're going to send an army of high schoolers. We're going to train them to be sustainability consultants, and they're going to go out into our community and speak to all the businesses that we have to get them on board. So this is going to help us reach out even further to other businesses that haven't necessarily signed up. These are just a couple of events we've had, just outreach. We try to get the word out as much as possible. We go to schools, we go to events, we host trainings. Over in the bottom left picture, this is actually where we brought together some of the businesses that signed up to kind of understand what their wants and their needs were. And we continue to have these focus groups and plan to have another one relatively soon. And that is basically it. I think I did 10 minutes exactly, so I'm very excited. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and this is our website. Again, the program was designed to be replicated in other cities, to be expanded. We want it to go everywhere, so we encourage you to talk to your local elected officials and tell them that this is available. This is a great resource and it's free, and we're more than happy to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yanni.
No problem.
Awesome. Love hearing everything that you guys are doing, and we're so happy to work with you. So now we're going to pass it over to Marvin Wilmoth, the Vice Mayor of the City of North Bay Village. And I'm
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Share my screen for you. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. As Maddie just mentioned, I'm Marvin Wilmoth. I'm Vice Mayor of North Bay Village. As Yanni was talking about, I'm one of those elected officials that they've reached out to speak about expanding the plastic-free program, and we had the pleasure of being able to do that last year during the summer. And so I'll talk a little bit about some of that, but in the very beginning, just make mention that our Mayor Brent Latham and our commission have been very focused on sustainability and resiliency initiatives. and specifically around plastic reduction. As our city is located in the middle of Biscayne Bay, we are the recipient of much of the floating debris that is discarded, not just in our municipality, but from around neighboring municipalities. And so we knew that if we wanted to make impact from a plastic reduction perspective, it was going to take a more holistic, regional, and statewide approach for us to really make an impact. So I'm going to focus my efforts. Yanni did an amazing job of laying out what the plastic free initiative is. So I won't go more into that, but I will talk about some of the best practices and things that I've seen that have made us successful in really getting our residents galvanized and excited around how do we help change behaviors to reduce plastic usage. And that's happened three main areas. It's sort of advocacy, it's policy around plastic reduction, it's advocacy and resident engagement with our neighbors, and then it's ongoing education, specifically through the plastic free program. So Matt, if you want to go to the next slide. So like I mentioned, in 2019, when a lot of the new commission came on, we were specifically focused on sustainability and resilience initiatives. And part of that, part and parcel of that is some of the plastic free reduction efforts that we have. But as a small city, we don't have the size and budget that a Miami Beach does. And so in addition to not having the head count and the manpower to really dig into some of those plastic free initiatives, we also didn't necessarily have a specific plan. And so one of the first things that we did is we passed legislation creating our sustainability and resiliency task force. Those folks have worked with a number of folks, and I'll get into what they're doing on a future slide. But we focused our areas in three main areas. So we address the supply and demand through talking to our businesses. So we work with the debris-free oceans to help our businesses, our pharmacies, our grocery stores, restaurants identify plastic alternatives, which has been incredibly helpful because a number of them, inertia is a huge thing to overcome. And if you've just been used to making purchases in a certain way, finding alternatives has been very difficult. And so what we've found is that by working with debris-free oceans, by providing additional plastic-free alternatives to take some of the work out of being more plastic-free, we've seen our businesses really migrate much faster and reduce their straw usage and plastic bag usage. We've also proactively, from a governmental perspective, in all of our meetings, in all of our events, we have banned the use of plastic. So no plastic bags, no plastic straws, no plastic water bottles, and have reduced our supply of plastic from a municipal perspective down to zero in what we do. And so that is something that we could, as Yanni mentioned, we've preempted from the state from actually banning plastic bags, even though we have passed legislation around that. But we know that we have the ability to immediately affect the things that we do and change our personal behavior. And so as a city, we have done that. Also, our meetings and events do not use plastic in any of those as well. And then the third is addressing the demand issue from the resident side. And so as part of our plastic free initiative, we provided as many people as wanted them and some of our businesses with reusable bags that folks could either take their food or groceries with them. That's a branded bag. It's a really nice bag. Folks are really excited about it. And it has the added benefit of helping folks change that behavior and not using plastic bags. Matt, if you want to go to the next slide. So from an advocacy perspective, as I mentioned, the Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force was formed in 2019 with the specific goal of sort of creating and advising the commission on resiliency strategies to address the challenge of global climate change. And so we've focused on energy creation and using reusable energy. We've focused on reducing our pollutants into the bay with the Florida-friendly fertilizer ordinance, which was just recently adopted by Miami-Dade County. But most specifically, with this task force, we've passed a lot of legislation, and a lot of that started with our Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force. In fact, our current chair is a young lady named Denny O'Brien. The previous vice chair of that board is now on the North Bay Village Commission. And so actually 2 members of that task force from the beginning are now on the commission. And so you see that by creating advocacy and creating a bench of environmentally conscious residents, that is now translated into a commission that is now intently and specifically focused on environmental initiatives and has only sped up our response to that. So as I mentioned, we banned plastic bags, plastic straws, styrofoam, and are continuing to educate our residents on how to do that. A very, very important part of our ability and our success has been our partnerships with Miami Waterkeeper, with Miami Beach, with the Free Ocean, Miami-Dade County. And so for anyone watching from a smaller municipality that is looking at the amazing plastic-free MB initiative that Miami Beach has started and is trying to branch out, but doesn't think that you have the budget for it, rest assured that there is a scaled down model that we've been able to do in working with Yanni and team to be able to have our businesses have access to some of those larger resources that were mentioned earlier. Maddie, if you want to go to the next slide. And then finally, changing behavior requires educational campaigns that continue over time. And so as we pass new legislation, we have infographics and things that we share that can be branded and shared. So anyone that is interested, we're happy to share those. And they're easily manipulated to add your city's logo or your organization's logo. We also put on a series of events, whether it was about teaching folks how to recycle right with G. Marie Massa from Miami-Dade County, and Maddie talked to us about how to have allies in sustainability with their businesses and reducing plastic usage. And so what you'll see is we created some momentum in events around plastic reduction so that people could get involved and people were excited about it. I think one of the things that was incredibly well received that has silently been one of our greatest impacts has been some of the kids events that we have. And so Debris Free Oceans hosted a reusable bag making event for our children here in North Bay Village using old t-shirts. And what we found is I've had a number of our residents say that, my child attended that event, they made this shirt, and in addition to learning something and being excited about creating a bag, they've also been pestering their parents anytime that they use plastic. And so that additional nudge that they're getting from their children has really helped start to change behavior. And then of course the giveaways with having those reusable bags that are branded that folks can have a goal of using the bag, but also feel as if they're being supported in their plastic-free lifestyle that they're trying to achieve. And so, those are a few of the things that we've done. We're planning to do it again this time with more municipalities, hopefully involved in the future. And we're really looking forward to continuing to expand on this. And Maddie, I think there's one more slide. So thank you. I'm available for anyone that has any questions. To the extent that you have any elected officials that you would like for me to talk to, I'm happy to do so peer-to-peer and sort of give best practices of what we've been able to accomplish here in North Bay Village. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marvin. It's been also so great working with you and seeing all you've been able to achieve in just the past couple years. So thank you again. And I just wanted to add, we're going to save Q&A for after all the speakers go, just in the interest of time. So use that Q&A box and then we'll answer some live questions and our panelists will type in the answers for anyone that they want to answer in the meantime. And so now we have Stephanie Wilk. She is the sustainability specialist at the city of Fort Lauderdale. And also wanted to just highlight Stephanie and Glenn, her supervisor. This webinar was actually their idea and brainchild to bring everyone together for for this presentation. So thank you guys for approaching us with this amazing idea in the first place.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Wilk, and I'm the Sustainability Specialist with the City of Fort Lauderdale. I'm so happy to be here today with you, and I would like to thank Maddie and her team at Debris Free Oceans for this invitation to participate in today's webinar. The City of Fort Lauderdale brands all of our green initiatives under our Green Routine tagline. You'll see our logo up there on the top right. This is meant to promote green habits to residents at home, in the workplace, and in the community. You can find more information about our Green Routine program on our website at www.fortlauderdale.gov/GYR. Sorry, trying to change my slide. Oh, there we go. Today I will share with you the purpose of the More Flavorless Plastic campaign, our city's plastic straw prohibition, the history of how our plastic straw prohibition came about, our city's polystyrene prohibition, the outreach we have done to spread education and awareness, and how we are engaging the community with the tools that are given to us, and lastly, any challenges or lessons learned from this process. So the More Flavorless Plastic campaign is a community-wide initiative to eliminate plastic straws and reduce other single-use plastics like plastic utensils, stirrers, takeout containers, cups, bottles, and bags. And I'm going to expand more on our community-wide efforts later in this presentation. On January 22nd, 2019, the City Commission adopted an ordinance to prohibit the sale and distribution of plastic straws within city boundaries. And a little history of how this process began. In July of 2018, the Surfrider Foundation's Broward County chapter reached out to the Sustainability Advisory Board. And at that time, the state was working on an amendment that would preempt prohibiting the sale and distribution of plastic straws. So as a result, there was an urge to push local municipalities to prohibit plastic straws before the state could pass the preemption. And at the end of August 2018, both the Parks, Recreation, and Beaches Board and the Sustainability Advisory Board sent a communication to the City Commission recommending that they prohibit the sale and distribution of plastic straws. The City Commission received both of those communications at their September 4th meeting, and at that meeting, they directed the city attorney to develop an ordinance to prohibit plastic straws. And then on January 22nd, 2019, the city adopted the ordinance prohibiting the sale and distribution of plastic straws. And that's how fast it's happened. And that's why I'm highlighting this timeline, because it illustrates how a board or a committee can be a useful tool when promoting sustainable or environmental initiatives. It also shows how important the voice of the public is. In this case, the surf riders planted the seed and it grew from there. After the ordinance was passed, the city wanted to make the transition process smooth for businesses and residents. And so the City Commission set out some requirements for the ordinance, which included that the city provide public outreach on the plastic straw ordinance for the first 6 months of adoption until June 2019. And then starting in July 2019, businesses could only provide plastic straws upon request. And then as January 22nd, 2020, business could no longer provide plastic straws. There are some exceptions to the ordinance, and those include straws included in prepackaged beverages like the juice boxes here on this slide, plastic straws, part of reusable beverage containers like reusable water bottles or tumblers, if needed for a disability, medical and dental facilities, property of county, state, or federal government, for example, the Broward County Courthouse, Federal Courthouse, Broward County Parks, and during a locally declared emergency such as COVID-19 and natural disasters, etc. In July of 2020, Commissioner Sorensen of District 4 suggested that the commission consider prohibiting the use and distribution of polystyrene in the city of Fort Lauderdale. The city attorney's office presented a draft ordinance prohibiting the use of polystyrene on city property and city facilities in October of 2020. And then on November 17th, the city of Fort Lauderdale adopted an ordinance to prohibit the use and distribution of polystyrene products on city property and city facilities. This ordinance was different from the plastic straw ordinance because there was no transition time and there was no requirement for outreach and education. This ordinance prohibits the use of polystyrene products by individuals, temporary vendors located on city property and city facilities like the beach, city park, city hall. Additionally, this ordinance prohibits the use of polystyrene products by city contractors and special event permittees operating on city property and city facilities. For example, the Tortuga event on the beach. And as previously mentioned, one of the requirements for the plastic straw ban was for the city to provide public outreach for the first 6 months of adoption. This is when my division, the sustainability division within the Public Works Department, launched the More Flavor, Less Plastic campaign. We created a website where residents could visit and read more about the ordinance and find other ways to help reduce the usage of single-use plastics. And that website is www.fortlauderdale.gov/lessplastic. The website also includes a link to Debris Free Ocean's vendor product guide, where businesses can go and check out available alternatives to single-use plastic products. We also sent out postcards like the one there on the top right to Fort Lauderdale businesses to notify them of the ordinance, notify them of the transitional stages and when they're no longer able to sell and distribute plastic straws. We retrieved a list of about 800 food and beverage businesses and sent out specifically targeted email blasts. And we also worked with our Code Compliance and Enhancement Division to guide officers to visit restaurants and pass out flyers to inform businesses of the ordinance. We have used multiple methods to spread education and awareness to residents through events like the City of Fort Lauderdale's Neighbor Support Night, various Earth Day events we hosted and participated in, and Broward County's Water Matters Day. Normally we set up a table and we have games where individuals must answer questions relating to single-use plastics to win items such as reusable metal straws. So this kind of helps promote that education. And then additionally, our internal green team, which is comprised of a representative of each department and division in the city, assisted with handing out postcards to businesses while they were dining out. So if they found that the business had plastic straws, they would provide staff or management with a postcard to ensure that they were aware of the ordinance. And green team members also conducted presentations internally to their department. On our webpage, we urge businesses and residents to pledge to eliminate and reduce their use of single-use plastic items. And for businesses, if they show that they have eliminated plastic straws and other single-use plastics, they can earn the prestigious title of Greening Edge Leader. They receive a window cling for all their customers to see, so they know that this business takes the health of the earth, wildlife, and humans seriously. Additionally, the first 200 businesses to pledge are recognized on the city's website. So this year, most of our focus for Earth Month was to promote plastic straws, the plastic straw prohibition, and recently adopted polystyrene prohibition. First, we are hosting a 2021 More Flavor, Less Plastic poster contest for Fort Lauderdale 4th and 5th graders. So a lesson plan and a PowerPoint presentation was provided to Fort Lauderdale teachers, and we collaborated with our city's chief educational officer. This was also shared with Fort Lauderdale's Parks and Rec after school programs, the Fort Lauderdale Boys and Girls Club, and the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Second, we sent out weekly email blasts throughout the month of April. And week 3 highlighted the More Flavorless Plastic campaign and included the recently adopted polystyrene prohibition on city property and city facilities. And internally, we are hosting a city staff photo contest. We have distributed educational material to help spread awareness of the polystyrene prohibition on city property because it does affect staff, especially if they were getting takeout for lunch. Under this new ordinance, they are unable to bring polystyrene back to the office. So for this contest, staff are to take photos of themselves using reusable containers instead of polystyrene. And the first 50 submissions get a reusable clamshell that is both microwavable and dishwasher safe. And the purpose of this clamshell container is to encourage staff to bring them when they are ordering takeout and to ask the businesses if they would put their food in this container and spare any plastic or styrofoam containers. Additionally, it's an effort for staff to assist us in spreading the word to businesses about the ban and hopefully encourage them to consider alternative products. Lastly, we have created flyers and signs that departments can distribute electronically or post at facilities and parks to help spread awareness of the ordinance. So finding creative ways to reach the target audience was a challenge. Even after all of the outreach and advertising, we found that there were still people who were unaware of these ordinances. We received unexpected questions from businesses about exemptions. For example, are bioplastics allowed? Bioplastics are plastic materials produced from renewable biomass sources such as vegetable fats and oils, cornstarch, straw, wood chips, sawdust, and recyclable food waste. They are compostable and biodegradable, but in very specific environments. So all in all, biologically derived plastics are still prohibited in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Regarding the plastic straw ban, we were not provided a budget for the education and outreach, so we had to get creative with our outreach strategy. And the plastic straw prohibition had a built-in education and outreach requirement. However, the polystyrene did not. So here in the sustainability division, we have taken it upon ourselves to help spread awareness of the ordinance. Additionally, there was no transition time for the polystyrene prohibition. Once it was adopted, it was immediately in effect, unlike the one-year transition phase in the plastic straw ordinance. And there are many questions that were raised after the polystyrene prohibition on city property and city facilities was passed. Like are packaging peanuts and other shipping polystyrene materials prohibited on city property? Are staff going to be cited if they bring takeout containers on city property? So those are a couple of concerns that were raised after it was passed. But for many ordinances, the state has preempted local regulations for prohibiting items like plastic bags and polystyrene. Hence, cities are limited in how they can regulate many single-use plastics. This is why the straw ban is citywide, but the polystyrene ban only applies to city facilities and city property. So that has been a major struggle. So that is everything I have. On this slide, I do have some resources. Feel free to visit our webpage, and at the end, there will be an opportunity for questions. Feel free to enter any of them in the Q&A, and you can always email me. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And we'll be sending out these slides afterwards too, so you'll be able to access all of these links afterwards as well. And so now we will hear from Elaine Franklin from the City of Hollywood. She's their sustainability coordinator. And we've been in touch with Elaine recently, thanks to an introduction from Uden of Oceana, who will speak last. It's been great to coordinate with you and provide support as you guys passed your recent ordinances. So I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Are you all seeing my presentation slide, like in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I am really pleased to be a part of this panel. I'm taking notes on what everybody is doing and getting a lot of tips. So thank you for including Hollywood in this. I'm going to just provide a real brief, setting of where Hollywood is, since we are showing cities and municipalities from different parts of South Florida. So Hollywood is the third largest municipality in Broward County. We're in the south of Broward. We have about 153,000 people. It's about 30 square miles, and we have a rather long coastline. It's over 5 miles that Hollywood is a steward of. So it's really important that we take these steps to help protect our waterways. So for my presentation, I'm going to review Hollywood's efforts to reduce plastics. I'm going to provide just a few conservation tips, which I imagine people on this call don't really need, but they're there. especially when this presentation is shared publicly, it'll be there for people. I will briefly review our Scene Being Green initiative, and lastly, the Ocean Friendly Restaurants certification. So here you see an image of Hollywood Beach's Broadwalk. So in 2018, the city implemented a ban on plastic and polystyrene food service products on the barrier island. This was actually passed back in 1996 to curb litter, but it started to be implemented in October of 2018. It only applies to businesses, and it only applies on the barrier island. So in 2020, Hollywood passed another plastics ordinance banning single-use plastic and food service products, as well as all unencapsulated polystyrene, also known as foam, and the intentional release of balloons through ordinances 97.08 through 97.12. Now, this ordinance applies to city vendors, special event permittees, and anyone on city-owned property, including the beach and the Broadwalk. So here you see an image of part of Young Circle. So anyone visiting Young Circle would have to adhere to this ordinance. So anyone going to any of the city parks, any city buildings, or if you need a permit for a special event, or if you're a vendor to the city, then you cannot use single-use plastic for food. You can't use any polystyrene, and you cannot release balloons. So just some quick conservation tips. Of course, use a reusable water bottle whenever possible. Reusable bags have been around for, well, forever probably in some people's minds, but they've been popular off and on for this entire millennium. And it's really interesting to me to reflect on that and see that we're still trying to push this habit of people bringing and using their own reusable bags. But whatever's needed, we're just going to keep pushing, right? We're just going to keep pushing. So encourage people to use your reusable bags, bring your own containers. You know, surprisingly, there are some restaurants out there, whether they advertise it or not, you can, if you're getting to-go items, you can bring your own container. And sometimes they'll honor that and they'll put the food in your reusable container. So that's another avenue to try if you're getting any takeout food. If you're ordering ahead of time, if it's not a place like a cafe or a bakery where you just walk in, but it's a place where you maybe place an order, you could ask, you could call the establishment and ask if you can bring your own container and if they'll use that. Decline the straw, even if you're in a city that does not have a straw ban, you know, you can always exercise your voice and request to decline the straw. Also, if you're getting carry out and you don't need the utensils, decline the utensils unless you need them. It's interesting to me that establishments assume just by habit that you're eating somewhere outside of your home. You might be doing takeout and bringing it back home. A lot of times, I know I do, even before COVID, and yet the assumption seems to be, oh, you're going to be eating this in your car, you're going to be eating this outdoors somewhere, so here's some utensils. But a lot of times we don't need them, so just declining those utensils. And again, for anyone who is living in a city or visiting any place where they don't have these bans in place, you know, you can still take the opportunity to use your voice and say, no, thank you. So in terms of balloon releases, we are encouraging people to decorate with reusable or biodegradable items as opposed to balloons. While our ban speaks specifically to the intentional release of balloons, we all know that sometimes when you're out and about, you're tying balloons to something or untying balloons afterwards, one might slip away. So if you just don't use them in the first place, that's one of the easiest ways to avoid polluting the environment with balloons. So consider decorating with reusable items or other biodegradable items. I didn't include a bullet here about memorial type activities, but there are lots of alternatives where people can release items like native flowers and things like that if they're looking for a need to release something that helps them have closure with a situation like that. And there are lots of recommendations online. Kat Uden, who will be speaking right after me, pointed me to balloonsblow.org, which has been a very great resource for us in helping to implement our balloon release ban and helping people find those alternatives that they may need. So we are also encouraging people to help keep the beaches clean as we can through our new beach bucket stations. We were inspired by other cities on the East Coast. So thank you to anyone who already has something like this. We're using buckets in our stations as opposed to baskets where some places use baskets, because in my research, I was finding, people were telling me that with some of the small pieces of plastic and cigarette butts and sometimes straws, that the size of the basket, it will fall through. So we're trying buckets. We're seeing how people in Hollywood do with the honor system of returning the buckets and not taking them home. We do drill holes in the bottoms of the buckets to help water drain through, and to also discourage people from maybe wanting to take the bucket home and keep it for their personal use. We launched this at the beginning of 2021 with 2 stations. One is at Charnow Park. The other is outside of Margaritaville. And we're going to add 2 more stations in the next couple of weeks. So this is a way for people who are walking on the beach to, just go out and collect litter at their leisure and help out. The Seen Being Green initiative was launched in 2017. And at the time, there were staff that were basically identifying people in the act of being green, using a reusable water bottle, using a reusable bag, maybe using sustainable transportation, riding a bicycle, things like that. And they would get a certificate to acknowledge their actions. And for a period of time in April, in honor of Earth Day in 2017, people were eligible for prizes when they would be seen being green. So we are continuing to use the Seen Being Green logo in our new initiatives. And here you see an image of the sign that goes on our beach bucket station. And you can see the little Seen Being Green logo down there in the corner. And one other thing I want to point out is at those beach bucket stations, we are encouraging people to track the litter that they collect through the marine debris tracker. So there's an app that people can use anytime they go and collect litter. They can record the litter they collect at the marine debris tracker, so we can help contribute to a global database and find out what's happening in Hollywood. Very quickly, the Ocean Friendly Restaurants program, it has been expanded since it was originally put on our website, and in the process of putting together this PowerPoint, I discovered how it's been expanded. So I actually need to update our website after this panel. So currently, businesses who participate must follow 7 criteria, which is only reusable foodware for on-site dining. Paper straws are provided only upon request. No foam is used, no plastic bags for takeout orders. Single-use utensils, straws, condiments, and other accessory items are provided only by request. Beverages are not sold in plastic bottles, and proper recycling practices are followed. So for any businesses who participate in this program, they would be getting a long way toward also adhering to the new city ordinance, even if it doesn't necessarily apply to them. And it would be a way for them to also get recognition. So in addition to those 7 requirements, they have 3 criteria that they must choose from. For example, providing a discount to customers with their reusable items. All seafood that's offered must be best choice or good alternative. By the way, ocean-friendly restaurants do not have to be on the coast. They do not have to offer seafood, but they do have to follow the 7 criteria on the left, and they have to choose from at least 3 criteria on the right. In Hollywood, we currently have 3 businesses that are certified as ocean-friendly restaurants, those being Playa at the Diplomat Beach Resort of Hollywood, Billy's Stone Crab Incorporated, and Ocean Alley Restaurant and Beach Bar. And that is my last slide. So I will go ahead and put my email in the chat and turn it over to Kat.
Thank you, Elaine. That was awesome. We're getting lots of great questions. But before we get to that, we have, last but not least, Kat. She's the Southeast Florida campaign manager for Oceana, and she has helped coordinate so much of these initiatives. We're really grateful to have her here, and I'll let her take it over.
Thank you. Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yes.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. My name is Catherine Uden. I'm the South Florida field representative for Oceana, and Oceana is an organization that works mainly on federal policy to protect the world's oceans, but with our plastic pollution campaign, we work at all levels, local, state, and federal. And this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. I care very much about it, and I was working on it for many years before even working for Oceana, just on a volunteer basis. So please reach out to me after this webinar if you're interested. Maddie is going to provide my email. I'm happy to answer questions and help you in your own municipality, wherever you are in Florida. So I love seeing all these initiatives that all of the cities are doing. It is just amazing. And it really is going to take the work of, it was such a great point that, you know, trash doesn't stay in one place, it floats, right? And it goes from city to city. So it's really important that other cities get involved in Florida with these initiatives so that we can tackle this horrible plastic pollution problem. This plastic pollution problem is so great that it's going to take a lot more than voluntary actions. We need to take serious, meaningful action. So it's great to see cities getting all aboard. So the reason why Oceana tackles unnecessary single-use plastics for our plastic pollution campaign, and we are going to tackle them at the source. We don't want to simply look at the waste portion when they already, we're already trying to find a way to recycle them or clean them out of the ocean. We want to look at reducing them at the source and reducing the whole plastic production, right? So plastic production is expected to quadruple by 2050. We're producing so much plastic because of the abundance of cheap natural gas from fracking. So if you think about fracking, that's polluting the environment. It's the oil and gas industry. It's creating greenhouse gases. It's contributing to climate change. So we really need to think about how are we not going to make this plastic in the first place? Because the more plastic we produce, the more we're going to see in our environment. So if we look at global plastics production, almost 40% is packaging. Okay, so it's a huge part of the plastics pie. And when we dive further into that, 36%, it's plastic packaging, single-use material that you're probably only going to use for a couple of minutes and then discard. So things like plastic bottles, your takeout containers, straws, cups, things like that. So this is why we are tackling single-use plastics in this plastic campaign. Also, we can tell, many of you do beach cleanups, you know that these are the things that we find on our beaches. So this is the International Coastal Cleanup. It's sponsored by the Ocean Conservancy every year, and their beach cleanup participants track on an app the exact items that they're picking up on the beach when they do it. So this gives us great data to see what is a problem on our beaches, in our oceans, and our waterways. So it's straws, stirs, the utensils, the bottles, the bags, the cups, the plates. Again, things that are single-use plastics, you're only going to use them for a couple minutes and then they're discarded. So, when we look at these items, I also want you to think that we don't necessarily just want to go to other single-use alternatives that, we're just going to throw away, because everything that you throw away goes to the landfill. It creates greenhouse gases. If we can avoid using single use in the first place and just go closer to zero waste, that's what we want to do. We want to use things that are refillable, reusable, right? We don't want to just keep throwing things away. So these are the items that we're tackling in these local ordinances. Like I said, most plastic in landfills, single-use plastic bottles, 61%. Again, this is all going to go to our landfills. They're either going to be incinerated or buried and create a problem, even whether it's plastic or not. We just want to reduce waste, right? So if we look at our recycling too, and your municipalities are going to know this, they're going to know that waste management is having a problem recycling all of the plastic that we have. Very little of your plastic actually gets recycled. Only about 9% of plastic gets recycled. And when you look closer into that number, because it's only made into maybe one other item, only 2% is recycled into something equal or greater value. A lot of it is buried or incinerated already. So when you think about the fact that plastic production is going to quadruple by 2050, there's no way that we can keep up with this pace. And, again, a lot of it's going to be incinerated, sent to the landfill. And the more plastic you produce, the more we're going to see in our environment. So we need to think about how are we going to not use this in the first place. It's not weird to create policies against single-use plastics. Many nations are doing it. Entire nations are passing policies on single-use plastics. So really, when you look at it, the United States is kind of, falling a little bit behind. We hope to catch up with this. Yes, Oceana is working on a federal bill called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, which we would love to pass. However, until that happens, we need to work at state levels, local levels to tackle this problem. And again, it's not weird. Many other states are doing this too. So, you know, unfortunately, we have these preemptions in Florida, which I'll talk a little bit about. If you're in Florida, you know that there are certain things we can do, we can't do, but it's a little fuzzy. It's really hard to understand, especially when some municipalities have passed things before things were preempted. So they were allowed to keep it, right? Like Hollywood was allowed to keep theirs, that's on the barrier islands, but other municipalities can't pass it. So what exactly are we allowed to do? Unfortunately, we have these preemptions. It looks like in the preemption language, and you can find the exact preemption language on plasticfreefl.org under resources preemption. So if your city attorney is like, I don't know what we can pass and what we can't pass, I don't know if we'll get sued, show them the preemption language. It's on that website. So the preemption language says that you cannot ban or regulate single-use plastic bags, expanded polystyrene foam, and auxiliary containers. Now, auxiliary containers is not clearly defined, but many municipalities are scared to pass ordinances banning things like cups and containers because it says auxiliary containers. A cup can kind of be a container for liquid. So anything that's even remotely resembles a container, a bag, or polystyrene foam, your city is not going to want to ban because they are at risk of getting sued. And some cities have been, right? Coral Gables was sued. In the preemption language, it does say it does not limit the authority of your local government to restrict these things on public property, temporary vendors on public property. So that's why many municipalities are passing these bans. And these bans mean that they can't tell your restaurants not to distribute it. They can't tell your grocery stores not to sell it, but the use of it is banned on all city property, city parks, your beach. If your city has a city event, they have the control to be able to tell their vendors you can't use single-use plastics. So that's what these bans mean, right? Now, you can notice in here, it doesn't say anything about straws or utensils. So straws or utensils are not a container. So you can ban straws completely. You can tell restaurants not to give them out or stores not to sell them. And same with utensils. Those are also not a container. The straws did try to preempt. Luckily, our governor vetoed that bill. So that's why you're still allowed to regulate single-use plastic straws. Again, as it was mentioned before, please keep your disability community in mind and allow for exemptions so that if people do ask for a straw, they can have one if they need one. No cities in Florida have passed a complete ban on single-use plastic utensils, but they could because it's not preempted. So if your city wants to be the first one, we can have a competition on which city can ban single-use plastic utensils. And the great thing about these restrictions is that we noticed when we started regulating single-use plastic straws, there was so much innovation and it really ramped up the production of paper straws and alternatives and people using reusable straws. So if we were to regulate single-use plastic utensils, the stores would have to come up with something. They would have to provide, you know, bamboo alternatives, or maybe some restaurants would just switch to reusable because it would be too, you know, they wouldn't want to keep buying them. So the great thing about regulations is that it can spark innovation and it can spark alternatives and it can really motivate places to want to use more reusable things. So this is what your local municipality can do. So again, what you can do in your local municipality, you can prohibit the use of certain single-use plastic products on your own property, your own city property, your own county property, in your own facilities and events, things like foam, bags, cups, bottled water. The Village of Miami Shores, they wanted to tackle single-use plastic bottled water. So they passed an ordinance that you cannot drink single-use plastic bottled water or bring it on any city property, and same with their vendors and all their events. You can completely ban single-use plastic items that don't fall under the preemption. So again, utensils and straws, and you can even ban businesses from selling and distributing them. And again, you can create a long education period and a time to adjust and give the businesses a chance to find other suppliers before it actually goes into effect and you enforce it. You can also pass by request only or opt-in ordinances. So there are some cities in the United States where, you know, I think Elaine was talking about, They automatically give you plastic utensils even if you don't want them. So delivery and takeout, they just shove all the extras in there. You can pass an ordinance that says the customer would have to opt in and say that they need it in order for it to arrive with your delivery or your takeout, which would really be helpful to a lot of people, because some people, they just don't want it, right? And it actually saves businesses money. So it's kind of a win-win for everyone. If it's by request only, or if it's opt-in, everybody wins. It's less plastic and the businesses win because they're having to buy less of these accessories, right? So there are examples. Go to plasticfreefl.org, what you can do local. And there's also examples of many different types of legislation from all around the state of Florida, different things that cities have passed. So you can craft your ordinance the way that you want it. And if you go to sample legislation on that website, you'll see at least 27 municipalities have passed straw ordinances, and at least 23 have passed policies reducing some other types of plastics or foam on their city property. So the list is growing, and there are many different samples of ordinances on there. So if your city is considering something, send them this resource, because if you take a lot of the work out of it for your city attorney, it'll be a lot easier to pass if they can see examples from other cities. So my advice is to lobby where you live. So sometimes the most effective lobbying you can do is in your own city. Contact your city and county elected officials. They're there to represent you. Even if you've never called them before, let them know I live in your district and I'm really concerned about this problem and I'd like you to do something about it. Attend city events and invite elected officials to your events. So if you do beach cleanups, invite your elected officials so they can see the problem. And speak at your city meeting during citizen comments. I actually hate public speaking, but I care so much about the issue that I will get up in front of everybody and speak about plastics. So if you're passionate about this issue, don't be afraid to go to your city meeting and speak. Usually all city meetings have an opportunity where a citizen can come up and speak about any topic they want for about 2 to 3 minutes. So you can get up there, let them know the problem, let them know what you want them to do. And the more people you get to do it, the better. So look at these kids, they did it. So there's a Girl Scout troop there speaking in front of the Deerfield Beach City meeting. They're asking them for a plastic straw ordinance. And these high schoolers, these girls up top, were in the Plastic Free Mermaids Club at South Broward School. And in that picture, they're at an event with our mayor, our state senator, our county commissioner, invited all of them to this March for the Ocean to show them how much they cared about the ocean and get them involved. So that went a long way towards enforcing some of these ordinances that you see in Hollywood, the fact that we got them all involved. The great thing about the city meetings is that some of them have even been online now during the pandemic. So before, when you could not participate online, sometimes now you can, so you don't even have to leave your home. So find out what your city meeting requirements are, and you might be able to make public comments from home. What I recommend that you do today is to go to plasticfreefl.org. For local, send an email to or call your local elected officials asking for an ordinance. If you get into a roadblock, email me and I'll help you. For state, you should email your state legislatures and ask them to repeal the preemptions, because it would be so much easier for cities just to completely ban the bag versus having to enforce it on city property. It's a little bit of an enforcement issue. So it would be a lot easier just to tell the business you can't give it out in the first place. So we need to repeal these preemption laws on plastics and give home rule back to municipalities. And then federal, we are supporting a bill called the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. That's the bill number. You just call your members of Congress and ask them to co-sponsor this bill. And that is also on plasticfreefl.org. So great resources on there. I suggest that you go there. And I know I've rushed through it and there might be more questions. So please, this is my email. And these are different ways to follow Oceana on social media. And please get in touch with me. I would love to help you in your municipality where you are. If your elected officials have any questions, you run into any roadblocks, please let me know and I would love to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat. You would never ever guess that you hate public speaking. You are so
I hate plastic more.
Yeah. Awesome. Such great presentations. Again, this is recorded, so we're going to distribute this and share it far and wide and use it to approach your elected officials. I know we're running a little short on time, but we'll do some Q&A. And then for those of you that can stick around, we have a little 10-question quiz. And then I'll follow up with everyone's contact information so you can ask questions afterwards. And so we got one question that I actually also am interested in, don't know the answer to, about what kind of consequences do businesses incur if they do not follow the plastic ordinances in your municipality? So I'll open that up to whoever might want to speak first.
I can start. So for the items that we passed prior to being preempted, there are dollar fines that are associated with it. But luckily, all of our residents and all of our businesses have complied with our items, so we haven't really had to deal with that issue. We've worked closely with our code compliance team to make sure that there was a long education period. We go there pretty often, both members of the commission, the mayor, and members of staff. And so we're always encouraging businesses to continue to look for other alternatives. So there are monetary fines and penalties, but we have yet to have to use them.
Awesome.
One other thing I'll say, sorry, apologies. We use the carrot more than the stick in North Bay Village. So we promote our businesses that are doing really well, and I think the advertisement is what really drives some of the participation as well. Sorry about that, Elaine.
No problem. Yeah, I just wanted to follow on and say in Hollywood as well, we do have a warning system and then fines and magistrates courts if necessary. So that's how we try to enforce this in our city.
All right. And then we have Diana from Nova Southeastern University, and she said their catering groups use a lot of polystyrene and plastics, and was wondering how can they be approached to affect the habits of contracted caterers, and are there any private universities in South Florida that have banned single-use plastics and polystyrene? Kat?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Eckerd College did so because they had a grant where they were reducing single-use plastics, and they actually provided everybody on their campus with like reusable bamboo utensils and things like that. Get in touch with Student Pergs, and if you email me, I'll get you in touch with them. Student Pergs was creating plastic-free campuses where their presidents could sign, basically commitments to reduce single-use plastics. So please get in touch with me if you're interested in your campus, your college, becoming plastic free, and we'll set you up and try to get you a plastic free zone. Again, that's Student Pergs, P-I-R-G-S.
Awesome. And then we have from Marcos Pena, he said picking up visible plastics like bottles and plastic shopping bags is awesome, but have any of your cleanup efforts or efforts in general addressed microplastics?
So the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act will address microplastics. It will study it, but I mean, the best way to address microplastics is just to not create the plastic at all, where it will end up in the ocean. So again, when we're looking at plastic pollution, we need to look at it like an overflowing bathtub, where you wouldn't just grab a mop and try to clean it up. You would turn off the tap. So we really need to look at the source of the single-use plastic, especially when it's such an environmental, it's a social justice issue, because a lot of these plastic production facilities are in low-income neighborhoods, minority communities. They're not polluting rich neighborhoods. They're polluting, marginalized communities. So the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act will also put a temporary pause on these plastic production facilities and make sure we're not using all this unnecessary plastic in the first place.
Awesome. Thank you, Kat. And yeah, a lot of our microplastics are secondary, meaning they come from larger pieces of plastic. So these ordinances and these recognition programs really are helping indirectly address microplastics. And then we have Dara from the amazing volunteercleanup.org. Just want to shout her out really quick. Check out their website. You can sign up for cleanups all around. You can put in your address and get an email blast every week with cleanups in your area. But anyways, so she asked a question for all cities. Do you have a staff or team that leads monthly neighborhood beach cleanups as an opportunity to engage the community and provide community service hours?
So I'm going to jump in there on that one first. So before COVID, we were doing a monthly beach sweep event. During COVID, we have shut that down temporarily. However, we are allowing, anyone outside of the city who wishes to organize a beach cleanup to do so. And there have been various beach cleanups happening during this COVID period. And then once, we're clear that we can sort of move forward again with things more the way they were before, we will reinstate the monthly beach sweep event.
Here in the city of Fort Lauderdale, there's another division called Neighbor Support. They're part of the city manager's office, but we kind of work hand in hand with each other. And they host bi-monthly cleanups. They work in partnership with other businesses and nonprofits like Heal the Planet. And so bi-monthly, we do have events. They are on our website, and there's also other ways to get involved through your HOA, and they also organize their own events for their individual neighborhoods.
Fantastic. In North Bay Village, we don't have monthly events, but our residents often organize cleanups on a quarterly basis. And so we tend to partner with other folks that are doing more consistent events as well as part of that.
If I can just give one last shout out, the Sustainability Advisory Committee for the City of Hollywood just held a very successful beach cleanup on Friday evening in honor of Earth Day and Arbor Day for the month of April. We had over 150 volunteers. They collected about 130 pounds of waste, which, you know, anytime people think, oh, that doesn't sound like a lot, always keep in mind, most of it is plastic. Plastic is very light. So in terms of volume, it was quite a lot of litter they collected. So people were very excited and eager to come out and participate in something like that. And the atmosphere was just very festive and very positive. It was a lot of fun, I think, for everyone. Kat was involved in that. And thank you, Kat, for everything you did there.
Awesome. I'm going to do 2 more questions and then jump to the quiz in the interest of time. Another one from Dara. Has your Parks Department made a policy to include water bottle refill stations when designing or retrofitting water fountains into public spaces?
I'm going to go ahead and start. Oh, go ahead, Yanira, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just, so we are in the process of pretty much retrofitting all the water fountains in the city of Miami Beach to have the option to be able to refill your water bottle. I'm not 100% sure on whether they have the lower one for pets, but it is something that pretty much almost all of our parks have now.
So in Hollywood, we are just starting that process. We have just retrofitted a couple of water fountains in a couple of city buildings, and we've priced out what that looks like for all of our water fountains, including in the parks. So what we're trying to do next is figure out where we get the funding for that. So if anybody wants to contact me outside of this panel to let me know any great ideas for funding for some of those water fountains, I would love to receive them.
As would I.
Awesome. And then last question for today, again, reach out afterwards with any outstanding questions. Is there any initiative to reach out to all Florida counties and propose the implementation of similar strategies?
So there isn't an initiative that I'm aware of, like one direct initiative, but Miami Beach, and I know a couple of different municipalities are part of the Southeast Florida, Southeast U.S. Sustainability Director Network, the Florida Sustainability Directors Network. And so basically what we do is it's a platform for all municipalities that have sustainability departments or sustainability teams to communicate with one another. And what we do is we exchange information similar to this. So that helps provide that collective voice. And I think that's, so far it's how we've been working on our end in terms of being able to make change at a larger scale.
And I would also suggest that, South Florida has the Southeast Florida Climate Compact where they work on climate strategies. And we really have to look at plastic as a climate issue because it's, plastic production, the life cycle is twice as much greenhouse gases as the aviation sector. So we have to look at this as an oil and gas, greenhouse gas issue. And so anytime your city or counties or any, municipalities getting together or working on a climate compact, please ask them to include this. I did this in Boynton Beach, where I asked them to include plastic reduction in their climate compact and the climate action plan. And they recently just passed an ordinance reducing polystyrene foam. So think about that if your city does a climate action plan.
Awesome. All right, I know we're a little over time, but for the dedicated people that are still here, we'll go ahead and launch the quiz to test your knowledge on all these various cities, programs, and plastics in general.